Also making news, the Victorian government may apply a new levy to short-stay accommodation like Airbnbs. This move, which is also being entertained in WA, New South Wales and Queensland, is intended to free up the housing market. But is it doing that?
Let's bring in Executive Chairman of Yellow Brick Road Home Loans, Mark Boris. Thank you for being here, Mark. How exactly are these short-term stays impacting the housing market?
Well, the theory is because they're short-term stays at a very high rent. So Airbnb, if you own a property and you can get someone to come in for the weekend and they're going to pay you $500 or $600 a night to rent your apartment out, it usually is much more than you would get if you put in a long-term rental.
Yes.
So as a result of that, it pushes the long-term rental people out, and in favour of short-term renters, and that could be holiday makers, could be people coming from overseas, etc.
Isn't that a good thing, though? Don't we want to see more properties available for renters?
Yes, we want to see more property available for renters. The argument is, of course...
Let's just say if I've got a spare place. I don't, but let's just say I do, and I'm using it for Airbnb only, and I'm making lots of mozza on that. Wouldn't it be better for the government to step in and saying, hang on, we need you to just put that out on the rental market?
Yeah, well, that's what the government's designing to do. So that's what the Victorian government's proposing. So they're saying, we're going to discourage you, David, from having that property by effectively taxing you. So if you're going to get user for Airbnb, short-term stays, we are going to impose a tax on you. So I think it's like 7%. I'm not sure if it's 7% of the value of the land or 7% of the value of the rent.
Right.
I don't know what it is. They haven't said that yet. But we're going to put a tax on you, which will discourage you from doing short-term renters, which then releases the property back into the rental market for long-term rents.
So where does that money from the levy then go?
That goes into the government's pocket. So that becomes part of, revenue of the government, and it's now money that the government now has. And the government is saying they're going to use this money that they raise to build more housing.
We know there's a housing crisis, though. Is this going to help ease the housing crisis?
David, the housing crisis has come about because governments, both federal, state and local councils, have not approved enough developments across every state for there to be enough housing relative to all the people that are starting to arrive in this country against the new federal government's policy. So we didn't build enough houses.
Right.
And that's not your fault, my fault or the Airbnb landlord's fault. That is government policy, relates to government outcomes, and governments should not be taxing individual landholders or landlords in order to fix a problem that they didn't sort out in the first place.
Is this though the beginning of the end of Airbnb in this country? We're seeing in New York they've actually stopped Airbnb altogether. We've seen 30,000 properties drop down to 7,000 there. Is this the beginning of the end for this sort of gig economy on property?
It quite well could be the case, but my gut feeling is at the end of the day, people still like staying in Airbnb. I mean, I don't know about you, but when you travel, a lot of time there's not enough hotels in Australia for staff. So these Airbnb do.
And if you've got a big family, it's better.
And often you get better value for money with the Airbnb.
Yeah. So they might be prepared to pay the extra tax. That might not work out and might not achieve anything other than put more money into the government's account.
All right.
Mark Boris, we'll leave it there. Thanks, mate. Good to see you.
Thanks, Mark.
Hey there, Today fans. Sarah and...
What's my name again?
Oh my God, Carl.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel, though. Subscribe now for more news, special reports and amazing Aussie stories.
And Carl misbehaving,
Whoa,
of course.
That never happens.
Always happens.
What's she talking about?